Hi there, this is Dr. Embody, and today I'm going to give you a little bit of a introduction to CSE 231, programming in Python. Why are we here? Well, there's a video link there about a woman, paralyzed woman, getting an exoskeleton to help her walk. You know, there's a problem, there's a solution. It's partly mechanical engineering, it's partly electrical engineering, it's partly computer science, there's user interface. But, you know, underlying this is some programming to make that thing work. And that's really what we're here for. We're here to think about solving problems and hopefully to use computers to make this world better for people. So you'll notice I use the word problem solving. That's what this course is about. And in fact, that's the hardest part of this course. Most people think this course is about programming. It's really not. It's really about problem solving in the context of programming. And that's what you really need to think about it as you go through this. Our goal is that at the end of this course, a problem appears in front of you. You will say, oh, hey, I can write a program to solve that. And if we can achieve that, then we'll have achieved the goal of this course. So what are we doing here? Well, Dr. Punch and I transformed this course back in 2007 to be a course on Python, problem solving in Python. At the time, there wasn't a book, so we wrote one. And when we created this flipped version where we couldn't fit everybody into a lecture anymore, we didn't put the whole book online. We didn't put the whole book into the videos. The concept behind this course is that you read the book to get the concepts, you watch the videos to see how to actually do some of this stuff. Okay, and so unlike many courses, we actually do expect you to read the text. And the videos supplement that. And there are, fortunately for you, less so for me, but fortunately for you, there are many ways to get this text, you know, renting it, secondhand ones, etc. And so, you know, don't skimp on that. You know, our experience has been that, you know, trying to get through this course and do well without reading the text ends up being a challenge. So you will quickly find that there is a rhythm to this course, and let's take a look at, you know, sort of you know, what some of this looks like. So what does a week look like in here? Well, so every week there'll be a reading out of the text, there'll be some videos to watch, there'll be some chapter exercises, there's a weekly lab, and there'll be a programming project. The lab, if you're in sections 1 to 25, you'll actually have a room to go to, and you'll have a TA in there to help guide you through that lab. That will be a problem-solving exercise using the things that were in that week's readings. And in addition to that, we will have 2 midterms and a final. So your points in this course come out of the exams, they come out of the chapter exercises, and they come out of the programming projects. You'll notice that I didn't mention the labs. Okay, and if I come down here, we see this breakdown. Computer projects are 45%, exams are 45%, chapter exercises are 10%, labs don't count. You can quickly see that adds up to 100%, and the labs were not part of that. What we've done with the labs is we expect you to go to them. You get to miss 2. For whatever reason, you got sick, you had to go home, or you felt like sleeping in, or whatever. But if you miss a 3rd one, your final grade will be reduced by 0.5. And the details are in the syllabus, so if you miss 4, then it'll be reduced by a whole grade point. And, you know, so for example, if you were getting a 4 point in the course and you missed 3 labs, you now have a 3.5. You miss 4 labs, you're down to a 3.0, and so on. So watch out for that. You know, pretty much in terms of labs, if you have something coming up ahead of time, you can make an arrangement with your TA. We're happy to do that. You know, you got a family event and so on. But that has to be done ahead of time. After the fact, nope, doesn't work. We have this thing called Mimir, which will help run tests for your projects and the chapter exercises. There's normally a $25 fee, but our dean, bless his heart, has paid for it for everybody. So don't pay that charge. If you're finding that charge, then you've taken the wrong path to get there. There are 3 kinds of supports to have. Obviously, there's an instructor. In fact, there's 2 of us. I'll point that out in a moment. And you'll have your TA. Piazza is an online place to get help. That is very helpful. And we also have a help room, and I will talk about that in a moment. Notice collaboration. It's not allowed on programming projects. Okay, you collaborate with somebody, you work together on coding a programming project, you'll get a 0. So don't do that. The other things like labs and chapter exercises, those we in fact encourage you to work together on. All right, what do you do? First thing you do, you will see that there is a lab 0 that you do on your own, and that'll be due Monday. And pretty much what we want you to do is to follow the links, get version 3 of Python, not 2. All right, and the latest one is, depending on when you're doing it, it might be a 3.6, it might be a 3.7. The important part is the first number, the second number is not so important. All right, and pretty much what, the goal of this Lab 0 is to make sure that you get Python onto your computer and that you figure out how to use Mimir to hand it in. And what you're going to do is you're going to write a 1-line program. Get to write your first program. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And pretty quickly you'll see there's a weekly rhythm. Now we don't have labs the first week because it's that funky half week that we get in the fall. But you can get started. Everything's available for you. Every week you read a chapter, you watch a video, you do some chapter exercises, you go to your lab, and you do a programming project. Guess what? Programming project is due on Labor Day. So, or is it due the week? No, it's due the week after Labor Day. All right, we got lucky this year. But projects are due on Mondays at midnight. Actually, we say 11:59 p.m. just to make sure. By the way, if you are from another country, make sure that your time is set to Eastern Standard Time, because many things online read your local clock to get the time zone. And for example, Mimir does that because it's designed to be used any place in the world. So you want to set your computer to make sure your local default time is Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, you'll look at that and go, oh, hey, my program really isn't due at midnight. It's really due at 3 in the afternoon or something the next day. Now, watch out for that. So, 2 tips for you. Read the text. Don't miss that. Start programming projects early. Watch out for that. I emphasize that because we start from nothing. We assume that you have never written a line of code in your life. So that means that we've got to start from nothing and get you up to speed. And you will find that the first project, yes, you can do that on Monday. Second project, you might be able to do it on Monday, but every project gets harder and harder. And if you don't watch yourself, you will find yourself trying to start a project on Monday and there is not enough time to do it. Why not? Because this is about problem solving, and we know that when problems get harder, you have to be able to set them down and walk away to come back to it. And let me tell you, I promise you, our programming projects will get harder and they will be hard to do in one session. All right, so I actually skipped one thing, and I want to go back to it, and that is the web page for the course. So the web page is on our servers. There's links to it all over the place, but it's CSE, Computer Science and Engineering. There's a little tilde in there. Don't forget that. CSE 231. Let's take a look at that page. All right. This is what the page looks like. There's a few things here that are important. There's a start here that tells you how to get started. There's a syllabus. Read it. There's a lot of stuff there. It's unfortunate if you find out later on that there's some course policy that you forgot about and now you can't get the grade that you thought you were going to get. There are two of us in here, myself, and we have Dr. Zabar. So there's two of us to help you get through, and a whole lot of TAs. So the way this is organized is every week there is a link in there, and you'll notice that there is a pattern to these to the weeks. Oops. And everyone starts off with a reading, and then does some videos, and then there will be chapter exercises on Mimir, and there'll be a lab, and there'll be a project, and you notice that it says to do the pre-lab before lab. The pre-lab is part of the lab. If you don't do it before lab, and by that we mean do it on Tuesday before midnight. If you don't do the pre-lab, that's part of the lab. You don't get credit for the lab, and all of a sudden your final grade starts going down. So watch out for that. Don't get burned by that one. All right, what else do we have here? The other most important thing on here is the due dates page. And the due dates page has, well, when everything is due. This is your guidelines, and you can see that every week. What do you have in there every week? Well, you have, let's take week 1 as a full week here. Guess what? You read chapter 1. You watch some videos. You do the oops, that's due. That lab's due Monday. We notice it says Lab 1 and Lab 13 due dates only apply to section 730. That's the totally online people. They don't have a physical lab to go to, but everybody has a lab to do every week, and there'll be chapter exercises. And you get done with that week, and the next week comes along, you do exactly the same thing. You read a chapter, you watch the videos, you hand in a programming project, you do the lab, you do the exercises, and then the next week it starts all over again. All right, we are quite relentless here. There is a project due every week, except for the weeks when we have exams. We've got to go from nothing up until you have the ability to write some useful programs. Watch out, they increase in difficulty. So watch out. All right, I promised that I would show you a little bit of programming. When you open Spider up, it will look something like this. In the lower right corner is the shell, and you can do things in there like you can do some simple arithmetic. You can have instructions in there. So that printed at the world hello. And then over here is where you actually write programs, and your first program is print hello world. And depending on the year, there may be an exclamation point, there may be a comma in there. You have to get that exactly right to pass the test on Mimir, which just says, could you do that one-line instruction? Why do we do this one? Well, for one, it's very easy, but there is a history to this. The C programming language, which underpins many operating systems, in particular Linux, The very first book on that, Carnegie and Ritchie, the very first program was to print Hello World. So there is a little history behind that. You do have to save it, and when you save it, make sure you save it with, you know, like this is, I think we call it lab00.py, but make sure that you include the .py. Because that is what indicates to your computer that it is a Python program. And if you look carefully at our program, you will see things like print is in purple and the stuff between quotes is in green, right? And if I save this without the .py on there, one of the things you'll notice is that, well, at least it used to in the previous versions, the coloring would disappear on you, and that would be a clue. Doesn't happen on this one. Finally, Spider decided to get smart, but don't save it that way. You really want to save it as with a .py on there, and certainly when you open it up, the next time it won't realize it's a Python program. All right, so you do that. You hand it in. How do you hand it in? Well, when you go to D2L, you will find a link to Mimir, and when you go there, that will put you into Mimir, and away you go. All right, there you go. Have fun. Good luck. You will learn to program, and you will get to be a better problem solver. All right, good luck.